So, Ann, you're from Philly or somewhere thereabouts?
From outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
And as I understand it, you've been working on immigrant issues for a number of years. Plus, you're now part of the Journey for Justice, and you've been on that journey since the beginning, several days ago, going all the way along the U.S.-Mexico border. Today, tell us what you saw.
Today was interesting in a different way. The previous times at the border and crossing into it, we saw a real humanitarian crisis. Today, we crossed the border through a national park at Big Bend, and it was a uh, point B entry. So there wasn't the same amount of screening when you walked in, and it was actually, for the most part, they had an extra CBP person there, but normally they don't. So it's just the park rangers who are there, and you cross into through the facility, and you have to take a boat across the river. And it's not very far. You could probably wade through the river there if you wanted. And then you go up an embankment on the other side. But to come back in, there's a computer there where you're talking through video to somebody else that's not present, because it is a national park. Not it's not filled with CBP officers like other border entries. The things that were also different to me was it was such a remote place, and it was there's natural walls there. The hills are so tall, both on the American side and on the Mexican side. So it kind of struck me, because so often we hear in the news about politicians who want to make this continuous wall all across the border. There, it's so remote. Would be very hard for anybody to get across the river, and anywhere from crossing the river. And even if they did, it would just not make sense to me, the amount of money that would have to be spent on some type of wall there, because it's just not even necessary. So it's interesting that people who have that way of thinking would think it's worth the money to do that through a national park.
So, did you get any feeling for whether or not there are many um, potential asylum seekers or migrants who do come across there, or are you saying that it's so hostile that people don't even try?
So, no, well, it's actually kind of very friendly there, and the person that worked for the national park said they do not see asylum seekers. She said that does not mean that there aren't some that come through at, at that aren't right there at the port of entry, that are coming through at other points in the park. When I was in Mexico, we were talking to a gentleman that lived on that side, and he said that they don't really see asylum seekers coming through. There are mornings they get up and they do see footprints on the ground, and so it's indicative that somebody has come through there. But whoever's coming through there, it's not like the other places. It is so mountainous and so remote that just to imagine the difficult travel that must be, I can't imagine how desperate that person must be to do that.
So part of the idea, I think, of the Journey for Justice was to get a feeling for the entire length of the border, the scope and the different conditions. It sounds to me like you're telling us where you were today was a whole lot different from other places you've been on the border.
Agreed. Yes. It was just very different. I mean, it was beautiful. It was a national park, but it's not someplace that's the town, for example, the town on the other side is a town of 300 people. You know,
It's
it's
not
that rem
Philadelphia.
no, it's not Philadelphia. It's not Matamoros. It's a very, very tiny remote place.
And do you know where you'll be heading tomorrow?
I do not know off the top of my head, to be honest with you, because we just got in.
Okay. Well, I hope it works out. Thanks a lot for talking with me. I hope the rest of the trip is good for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to participate with us.
Wish I could be there. Take care.
All right. Bye bye.